Hey guys, thanks for checking me out. This time I've got an interesting one. I've got Metal Gear Sahelanthropus from Sentinel Toys. It's a big old box, and it's a fairly expensive figure, so I figured before I just stick it in my display, I might as well shoot a quick video on it, show you guys what it's about. So the box has got a nice matte finish, and it's got a glossy V. It's a V in gloss on the front for 5. Metal Gear Solid 5 or V, I guess, whatever. Phantom Pain. Some pictures on the back of its different features and forms, and we'll go ahead and open it up. It's a fairly flimsy box, truth be told. When I was first opening it, I had to be careful about how I was holding it, because it felt like the weight of the figure inside would have been enough to tear the box flaps if I was to mishandle it. But that's that. We'll set that aside for now. Inside the box, you get Sahelanthropus, you get the instructions, and you get a display base. I took the display base out of the package earlier, and the wrapping that it was in. There's a few different things that the display base comes with. I haven't figured out all these yet, exactly where these pieces go. I need to read the manual here, see what's what, which I'm going to do now. I'm going to open them up, set them up, and we'll take a closer look. Alright, so there's a lot going on with this figure, and I guess I'll just jump into it here. So basically, it has 2 modes. You can transform him, and he comes with a bunch of accessories that you can use in different configurations. So here, I've got his shield. The shield comes off. You can take that off, and you can also position it into a bunch of different positions. And then he has his sword here, the Parasite sword. Let's get a closer look at what that looks like. It's just painted black with like yellow and orange specks. It basically looks like it does in the game. The handle for the sword goes in his hand here, and it plugs in. You can plug the handle in here. This one is plugged in, and the other one's not. It's in his hand there. So it's just a little tab that just plugs in there. So this thing is articulated pretty much everywhere. One of the biggest concerns for me, I'll start off with this, is its size and its height. This is a $350 figure, and the price indicated to me that it would be a little bigger than what it is. I think for the price that they charged, it should have been a little larger. The figure overall is it's great, but for the price I was expecting larger. So let's see here. Let me just move this a little closer. So I'm measuring from the floor of the base that he comes with. He's just standing straight up in this mode, and looks like he's given somewhere between 10 and 11 inches, depending on how you want to position his head. Straight on there on the camera, looks like it's shy of 10 inches. From my perspective, it looks like he's just shy of 11 inches. So make of that what you will. No taller than a foot, any way you slice it. Unless you measure from the top of the gun. His rail gun actually extends beyond this to there. And then if you wanted to manipulate the hinges and things, you could actually make it a lot taller than that. But I'm not sure why you would want to do that. So this guy's got a ton of detail and a ton of articulation. You can tell a lot of engineering went into designing the figure and making it accurate to the game, and as best I can tell, it is completely accurate. There's nothing about it that I see that seems off or is missing. He does have a light up feature on his head. There's a small panel right here. You press that down and that lights up. his head there. Let me kill the lights real quick so you get an idea. See there? It's a pretty good effect. It's very red. On camera it actually is kind of, I don't know, you can't really tell just exactly how red it is. It's very red. It looks almost pink on camera, but it's a very nice red glow. There's some translucent plastic in his mouth that the LED lights up, so it lights up from the front and from the sides. Similar to the 3A Metal Gear Rex, or Ray, excuse me, the 3A Ray. He comes with his base and a couple of different stands to go in for him to sit on. There's a slotted base and these tabs that will drop in there. There's this arm here, I'm guessing, is for the Rex mode, just to kind of help support him. He comes with that, and he comes with a couple of different pieces that the base peg into, and that will slot onto various parts of his body. So it looks like there's a couple different options you have for how you want to display him on this base. Now, he will stand without the display base. Takes a little doing, just figuring out where this balance is, but the way that all his joints are nice and tight, and the way that the feet are made, there's enough, they go back far enough towards the back, his heels are long enough essentially that he can balance on his own. Then he also has these spiked toes. They're independently articulated, but there's no ankle pivot, so you can't really, if you splay his feet out far enough, I don't think there's an ankle pivot. I've checked and looked. It really doesn't seem like his ankles will rock at all. Oh, I'm wrong. They totally do. All right. So that's good. That's a good thing. It's just very stiff. That's kind of the thing with this figure. A lot of the joints on him are really rigid, which is great. I think that's gonna help him last and kind of increase its longevity as you transform it and back and forth from one mode to the next. But it looks very game accurate. Pretty much everything is here. He's got this little spike. I don't know what to call this exactly, but I'm sure there's a proper name for it. I don't know it. But it comes out a little bit. It's sharp, so you could poke yourself with that, so be careful. So let's get into some of the detail here. Put him back in his mount just so he doesn't fall over. Alright, so let's take the sword out. The sword pegs into his hand. The hands are very articulated. There are several points of articulation in his hands. There are 2 points in the wrist, plus the wrist swivels. So you can see there, you can do there's 2 points there, the swivel. He's got, effectively has 2 thumbs, and then each of the knuckles are articulated. His sword tabs into his hand like Masterpiece Transformers weapons do. So you can see his hand can splay out, and lots of articulation there. Very cool. So then this handle plugs in right here, and I'm a little nervous about this because it uses these 3 little prongs as like its method for attaching itself, and there are 3 little slots in there, and I don't know, I just feel like if this thing falls over and the weight hits those are going to snap off. He's fairly heavy. I'm not sure exactly how heavy. He's a couple pounds at least, and I feel like if it fell forward that these things would go. This is the shield. The shield is optional, and it can be turned on a couple of different axes. It snaps into the underside of his forearm there, and it turns in several different points. So depending on how you want to configure it, you could get a lot of different positions out of that. There's nothing else. Once it's, I don't know, it kind of looks like a wing, but all the articulation is here. There's nothing else going on with the rest of that. All right, he has these here that come off, those are the handles for his sword, and then he has these grenades on his thighs here. Let me just get it to focus. All right, so these are articulated. These come off, and then these are tabbed on. So these come off, these little grenade canisters. There's a little slot right there where the end of this clip tabs in. So those are kind of neat. Also on his thighs are two like grenade hatches, or missile hatches, that open up. So pretty neat. There is a metal pin that goes through the end here. I think it's just there for detail. There's no, they're not functional as best I can tell. But it's a nice bit of detail. There's lots of good detail throughout this figure. Here's his laser wiener that actually doubles as his tail. This is the same kind of thing that Rex has, and it's articulated like the laser moves up and down, and whatever this is, it can move independently of the laser, as you can see. So pretty cool. This, for its transformation, will swing down and kind of become his tail. I have not put him into the Rex mode yet, but I will here in just a minute. Man, there's so much to cover with him. Bear with me here. Trying not to make you seasick. The mouth opens. It's got good articulation in the head. There's no ball joint in the head. It's all hinges, but it'll hinge back and forth, side to side. There's no tilt, but for transformation he will have a few different ways you can kind of configure his head, and if you wanted to give him a longer neck, you can. These shoulder pads are hinged to open and close, and then they also roll, which is nice. So if you raise his arm, you can have the pad roll with it or stay in its place. He has these kind of interesting caps on his shoulders. So he has a ball joint here on the inside where the arm attaches to the body. It's not exactly his shoulder. It's like his shoulder actually has a hinge on both sides. So there's one where it attaches to the body and one where the arm attaches to the shoulder. He has this little cap here that has a hinge on it. It only goes out about this far, but just allows clearance for him to extend his arm, and then when the arm's back, it has a nice capped look to it. His arms are designed to fold up inside themselves for the Rex mode. This comes off too, by the way, that spike, if you want to take it off. So there's no swivel hinge at the top of the shoulder. There is below or just above the elbow. The hand also is kind of missing a little bit of articulation in that the wrist, it just swivels here. There's no ball inside of that, but there still seems to be a good amount of motion in all the hinges that are there to give you pretty much whatever look you're going for. So as much as articulation is in this, some of it's for transformation, some of it is just to give you I don't know, the articulation you would want in a good figure. But because of the transformation, you get a little bit more, and so it doesn't seem lacking. Like here and there are strange ways that it articulates, but overall I don't find it lacking at all. He's got his backpack. This is another thing that will change into different positions because of transformation. The sensory array, this thing moves to different positions however you see fit. Well, it popped out, but it pegs into his backpack there. The gun, his rail gun, kind of does the same. It's got a ball hinge where it attaches to the backpack, and it has a few hinges at the ball hinge, and then again in between these two pieces here, so they swivel on that axis. There's another ball hinge here for the gun. The gun itself doesn't do anything, but it does extend, and you can put it into all kinds of different configurations. So if you wanted to really extend it, you get them real serious looking, you could do that too. He's got these, I guess these are fuel tanks. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they are articulated and they move more or less like they do in the game. There's those. The backpack is on this rail that will slide out of his body, and when you do that, you can raise it and move it into different positions. This is also for transformation, but I don't know, if you want to give him just a different look, I suppose you could do that too. It won't really stay up high like this. I've tried to kind of get it to stay, and there's just too much leverage. It's too heavy. It's not designed to stay up like that, but it does slot in that way. So, all right. So lots of detail throughout. I really don't have time to go over it all. I want to get to the transformation and show you what it looks like in the other mode. Don't think I'm going to have time to show you how it transforms either. Essentially, you just rearrange some stuff. Like I said, the head pulls up and out, and that's essentially how the rest of them transform. So I'm going to transform them, show you what the other form looks like, and that's going to be interesting, I'm sure. Okay, so that was really tough. There was a step that requires you to extend the leg. Now the centerpiece of the leg is die cast, and the rest is plastic around it. The armor is plastic, and the skeleton, so to speak, is die cast. And pulling it out was super tough. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I'm guessing it was just paint. Paint will dry and cause that kind of thing to happen, but it was really hard. I was at it for probably 15 minutes before I got it to come out, and I didn't do so without breaking a little piece. So you can see right here, that guy cracked and popped off. And luckily it broke in a way that it snapped back on, and it's not that big a deal. But man, I think that was rough. Between the instructions being in Japanese and it just not doing exactly what it says it was supposed to do, I had trouble. So this is essentially the step right here. So if you get this guy, you get stuck right here. This is it, essentially. It just says to extend that leg out, and it just would not go. The problem is that there are a couple of hinges, and so once it's extended, you have to kind of bend it back on one hinge and then bend it back forward on the one below it to give it this kind of look here. And man, that was tough. Anyway, I really like the way he looks in this mode. It's very much like Rex. He's also, really short in this mode. And just to get a measurement here, we're looking under, probably right about 9 inches or so, maybe a little under. I know that straight on it looks like that, but yeah. So, I'm pretty happy with this figure overall. The amount of paint detail and die cast and the sculpting detail, everything with it is great. It's a very good figure. I don't know that it's worth $350. I would say not. But if you need a Sahelanthropus figure, there's this in a model kit that Koto has put out or is going to put out. And I know that their Metal Gear Rex kit, basically you had to paint it yourself. If you didn't paint it and you just kept the default paint, you really didn't get a very good looking figure as a result. It's kind of the point. It's a model kit. You're supposed to paint them. So if you're not into that, I'm not good enough to do something like this. I would prefer the figure. So I think unless you have to have it, you probably could take a pass on this one, just given that how much it costs. But I really dig this figure. It's a lot of things to like about it. Once you figure out the ins and outs. But yeah, pretty cool. That's gonna do it for me. Thanks for checking me out. I've got let me see here. I've got on the Metal Gear tip Sniper Wolf, the Shoujo statue. That's gonna be up next, so stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.